The story opens on a bright, sunny day, showcasing the grand and imposing Campbell House, a castle-like mansion nestled against a snowy mountain range. Inside, a young man with messy blonde hair, Moon Campbell, awakens in a luxurious bed. He is completely bewildered, as his last memory is of dying in a car accident. Looking at his own hands in disbelief, he questions the reality of his situation, wondering if he has somehow traveled through time. He scans the room, taking in the opulent, Western-style palace decor and antique furniture, which is completely foreign to him. His confusion deepens when he looks into a mirror and sees a face that looks exactly like his own, but from when he was 17 or 18 years old. The realization sends a jolt of panic through him. He clutches his head, frantically trying to comprehend where he has been transported to. He pauses for a moment, his blue eyes wide, as he processes the impossible situation he's found himself in. Taking another look at his reflection, he can't help but admire how handsome his younger self was. He chuckles, thinking this must be some kind of incredibly realistic game. But then a sudden thought strikes him, wiping the smirk off his face. He recalls a familiar trope, getting hit by a truck and being transported to another world. It's a cliché he read about in stories, something he fantasized about as a middle-aged man before he died. Determined to find out if this is real, he spots an ornate dagger on his dresser. He picks it up, deciding he needs to confirm his new reality one way or another. Without a second thought, he slices his finger with the blade, causing blood to splatter dramatically. He stares at the shallow cut on his finger. The knife was far sharper than he expected for a mere decoration. Suddenly, the intense pain hits him. He writhes on the floor, screaming. The pain is undeniable proof this isn't a dream. He really has been transported to another world. As the pain subsides, a dark memory flashes before his eyes, showing an ominous, almost demonic version of himself. He suddenly recalls the story of this body's original owner. Moon Campbell blasphemed the royal family, was stripped of his noble status, and sentenced to a life of exile. The memory shows the original Moon Campbell, ragged and broken, cast out and warned that he would be killed without mercy if he ever set foot in the Empire again. Back in the present, Moon Campbell pants heavily, sweat dripping down his face. He had thought the name was just a coincidence, but now he knows the horrifying truth. He has actually transmigrated into the body of that mentally retarded dude, the yellow-haired villain, who isn't even a significant enemy in the story. His mind flashes back to his old life, lying in bed reading a web novel on his phone. It was called The Strongest Female Main Character in History, one of the few he followed daily, about the illegitimate daughter of a fallen noble family who becomes a world-saving hero. He remembers the book's description of Moon Campbell, a brainless, yellow-haired villain who constantly uses his family's power to bully the heroine, effectively serving as a walking experience point farm for the protagonist's party before his inevitable downfall and exile. He collapses onto his knees in despair. He doesn't want to be a fool who gets in the protagonist's way, but now that fool is him. The full weight of his situation crashes down on him. He thought he might get to be the hero after being reborn, but instead, he's just a stepping stone for the real protagonist. He clutches his head, crying out, "What should I do?" It's over. Just as he's spiraling into panic, a sharp knock at the door breaks the silence. A maid stands outside his room, interrupting his crisis. Still slumped on the floor from the shock, Moon pulls himself together enough to weakly call out for her to come in, bracing himself for the interruption. The door opens to reveal a beautiful maid with dark hair and red eyes. A nameplate identifies her as Anne, a maid of the Campbell house. Moon recognizes her and calls her by name, asking what she needs. Anne informs him that the dress for the banquet has been delivered and that the madam asked her to bring it for him to try on. Trying to act nonchalant, Moon smiles and tells her to just put it aside. However, Anne hesitates, her sharp eyes noticing that something is amiss with her young master. She spots the fresh cut on his hand and asks if he's injured. Moon casually explains he accidentally broke the skin and asks if she has any medicine or a band-aid. Anne simply repeats the unfamiliar word, band-aid. Anne states that while she doesn't know what he's talking about, she can handle stopping the bleeding herself. Moon looks on, intrigued, as she moves towards him. Before he can react, Anne takes his hand and brings his bleeding finger to her lips, licking the wound clean. Moon is utterly flabbergasted, his face flushing bright red as he lets out a shocked, "Eh." Anne pulls back slightly, confirming that the bleeding has stopped. She declares with a serious expression, "Every drop of the young master's blood is very precious." Looking him directly in the eyes, she blushes slightly and gently chides him, "Please don't hurt yourself so easily." Still betrayed and sweating, the flustered Moon can only stammer out an agreement, promising to remember her words. With her duty done, Anne asks if he needs anything else before she returns to her work. Moon, trying to regain his composure, thanks her for her hard work. The door clicks shut, leaving Moon alone in the room with his racing heart. He stands there for a moment, fists clenched and face still flushed, trying to process the incredibly bizarre and intimate encounter. Suddenly, his embarrassment turns into perverted delight. He throws his head back, his eyes turning to hearts as he shouts, "Oh my God, this is too foul." He throws himself onto the bed, rolling around and giggling like a fool. He can't get the image of the gentle, black-haired maid out of his head, thinking she is incredibly cute. Outside the room, Anne pauses before walking away, a thoughtful expression on her face as she calls out, "Young master." Her eyes widen slightly in surprise. She thinks to herself, did he just say thank you to me? This simple courtesy was clearly something she wasn't used to from the original Moon Campbell. After his moment of giddiness, Moon flops onto the bed, his thoughts turning serious again. He muses that being a good-looking duke's son with money and a maid should be a great life. He wonders why the original Moon would throw it all away by provoking the protagonist. Then he remembers the trigger for his exile, drugging the third princess of the empire at his coming-of-age ceremony. A smirk spreads across his face as he realizes the solution seems simple. Now that he knows the cause, all he has to do is avoid provoking the female main character during the ceremony. He clenches his fist, filled with new resolve, believing he still has a chance to change his fate. He sits up, contemplating his future. To continue being a rich and wealthy young master, he needs to think carefully. His first question, when exactly is the coming-of-age ceremony? His thoughts drift back to his recent conversation. Anne just now sent a dress for the coming-of-age ceremony, tomorrow. The horrifying realization hits him like a lightning bolt. He turns to stone, the single word echoing in his mind, tomorrow. A deafening scream of fuck erupts from the mansion, shattering the peace of the day. His doom is not a distant threat, it's less than 24 hours away. In absolute desperation, Moon curls into a ball in his bed, calling out for any divine intervention or transmigration cheat he can think of. System, are you there, Grandpa, Goddess? Monk, he knows he needs a miracle to get out of this. Tears of despair stream down his face as he pleads with the universe. Can anyone pay attention to me? Do I really not have any cheats? He laments his awful luck, feeling as if he's being punished for using up all his good fortune on gacha games in his previous life. With no external help in sight, he realizes he's completely on his own. Lying in bed, Moon desperately tries to formulate a plan. The coming-of-age ceremony is tomorrow. It's too late. He doubts a simple apology will resolve past grudges. He even morbidly wonders if she'll make him lick her feet in public for forgiveness. He imagines himself as a chibi character being stepped on by the protagonist, telling himself that a real man can endure humiliation. The insult of licking feet is nothing compared to becoming a crippled beggar. He then comically adds that it would be better if she wore black stockings tomorrow. With newfound, if slightly twisted, determination, he decides on a course of action. When he meets the protagonist tomorrow, he will immediately rush to her, kneel at the speed of light, and kowtow 3 times. But just as he's firming up his resolve, something hard suddenly smacks him on the head with a loud whack. He cries out in pain, clutching his head. Angrily, he demands to know what the hell that was, complaining that it hurt so much it felt like it smashed through his head. Looking over, his eyes land on a small, dark, ornate book lying on the pillow where his head just was. The book emits a faint, magical blue aura. A realization dawns on him. Could it be? His face explodes with manic joy. All his desperation vanishes in an instant as he triumphantly screams, the plugin HASARRIVED. He holds the book in his shaking hands, a look of pure, unadulterated excitement on his face. It seems his cheat has finally come. Tears of pure joy stream down his face as he hugs the book tightly. He feels that God still hasn't given up on him. Even if he's a loser destined to be cannon fodder, having a cheat changes everything. A confident, sly look comes over his face. He declares that from this moment on, he will change the original ending and his own fate. As the saying goes, my fate is in my own hands. He eagerly opens the book to discover his newfound power, but his confident expression immediately freezes in place. He stares at the open book with a look of complete and utter bafflement. His hopes are instantly dashed. The pages are completely blank. No, what's going on? He shouts in frustration, a wordless book. He quickly calms himself down, tapping his chin thoughtfully. He reasons that there must be a special way to activate it. Remembering the tropes of the Western European fantasy setting of this world, an idea strikes him. He resolutely bites his own thumb, drawing blood. He lets a drop of his blood fall onto the center of the blank page, a common activation method in many fantasy stories. The moment the blood touches the paper, a sinister dark purple energy erupts from the book, startling Moon. Holy shit, what's going on? He yells as the dark energy swirls violently around him and the book. He feels a strange sensation as the energy intensifies, seeming to draw something from him. He looks down at his hands, a grimace on his face as he realizes it's his blood. His vision begins to blur and darken as the book drains his vitality, but his eyes remain fixed, determined to see this through. The world goes black and he finds himself in a dark, cold space. A vision appears before him, a bruised and shackled hand, locked into a wooden stock. The vision pans down, revealing that the person's feet are also bound in heavy iron shackles. The full scene is revealed. It is Moon himself, stripped to the waist, his muscular torso chained tightly to a wall and covered in wounds. In this horrifying precognitive dream, his eye opens. He is conscious, trapped, and at the mercy of an unseen tormentor. In the vision, the beaten and chained Moon groans, his face bruised and his consciousness hazy. He slowly comes to, trying to understand where he is. A figure emerges from the darkness, her face inches from his. It's Anne, his maid, but her eyes glow with a terrifying red light, and her smile is cruel and possessive. She whispers that she has been waiting for him to wake up. Moon can only look on in horror. Anne yanks hard on the chains binding him, causing him to cry out in pain. She tells him coldly that the pain is inevitable, as it's all to teach him a lesson. She trails a finger across his wounded chest, her voice filled with a chilling sadness. She tells him he doesn't know how sad he makes her, and that he shouldn't be like this. She calls him evil, cruel, and selfish. With a sigh, she continues her twisted lesson. She tells him he should bring pain to others and make everyone hate him. Only in that way can he truly belong only to her. She laments that he has changed, and this change of heart simply won't work for her plan. The vision reveals a fate far more terrifying than exile, eternal torment at the hands of his possessive maid. In a dark void, a mysterious woman with glowing purple eyes looks down, her expression a mix of obsession and madness. She promises to relentlessly cleanse someone with her love, no matter how long it takes. Her eyes glint with a chilling possessiveness as she declares that they will be together forever. The scene reveals a young man with long blonde hair, chained and bleeding, screaming in terror. The woman's voice echoes that not even death can separate them, as shadowy blades descend upon him. Suddenly, the young man, Moon Campbell, screams in terror as he jolts awake. He sits up in his bed, panting heavily, realizing the horrific ordeal was just a nightmare. Sweating and disoriented, he holds his head, trying to process the horrifyingly vivid dream. He clutches his leg, disturbed that the pain from the dream felt so real. He wonders if it was some kind of precognitive vision. Moon remembers that right before he passed out, a strange book had flipped open and drawn a lot of blood from him. He questions if the dream was a result of something he did wrong. He looks at the mysterious dark book in his hands with a startled expression. As he holds the book, dark energy erupts from it, revealing a chilling message written in red: "Do not change for fate." The ominous purple energy continues to pour out of the book, startling Moon. Moon is left in despair, questioning the book's warning. If he can't change the plot, does that mean he's doomed to that tragic ending? And why would that be a bad thing if the alternative is the nightmare he just witnessed? The morning sun shines through the window of his lavish room. Moon stands by the window, looking at his reflection. He resigns himself to the fact that his previous thoughts were just wishful thinking, and that to survive, he must actively choose the path towards destruction. However, a light bulb goes off in his head. He reconsiders that the original book's ending, where he's exiled and becomes a beggar, isn't so bad because at least he's still alive. He realizes that unlike the original Moon Campbell, he is different. He strikes a confident pose, declaring himself a super working warrior from a modern society. He believes that even if he's exiled, he can start from scratch in another country, using the wisdom of modern people. Looking out the window with a smirk, he dismisses his aristocratic status as something built on exploiting the working class. He feels confident that as a genuine socialist proletarian fighter, he can make a good living in this new world with his own hands and knowledge. Later, Moon sits down to a meal, munching on a large piece of steak. He internally curses, admitting he's never had such delicious steak and wine in his previous life, acknowledging the temptations of the evil privileged class. He fantasizes about all the delicious food he can now enjoy, from sandwiches and roasted chicken to pancakes and cake, drooling with delight. A beautiful woman with golden blonde hair, Duchess Noyes Campbell, smiles warmly and asks what has made her little Moon so happy today. An older, distinguished man with white hair, Duke Lon Campbell, chuckles. He assumes Moon must be looking forward to his coming-of-age ceremony banquet tomorrow, one of the most important events in his life. Playing along, Moon calmly confirms to his parents that he is indeed looking forward to it. The Duke boasts about how fast his son has grown up, while the Duchess gushes over how he'll be the most eye-catching person at the banquet. However, the Duke reminds her that Moon already has a fiancée, Princess Celia, and getting other girls' attention might cause trouble. The Duchess pouts, complaining that she doesn't like Princess Celia, calling her cold and not cute enough for her son. But the Duke disagrees, stating that if Princess Celia isn't worthy of their son, then no one is. Listening to his parents' debate, Moon wears a confident, knowing smile. He thinks to himself, "My dear parents, just how confident are you in your son?" as he inwardly prepares himself to deal with the woman at the center of his fate. Princess Celia. Moon inwardly recalls information about Princess Celia. She is the third princess, a pure child blessed by God, and a strong candidate for the most beautiful woman in the empire. In the original novel, she was beloved for her cold exterior but warm interior. He scoffs internally, thinking, "Don't you know what kind of rotten fish your son is?" He knows his loving parents are the only two people in the world who treat the original, worthless Moon Campbell like a treasure. He reflects on the novel's plot. His parents were good people, but because of their son's actions at the coming-of-age ceremony, the entire Campbell family was forced to fade out of the upper class. He cannot accept the predetermined fate of being exiled and disabled. Walking through the grand, empty hall, Moon hardens his resolve. He has to do something. The book said he can't change his own fate, but perhaps he can change the fate of others. With a determined look, Moon analyzes the situation. The real reason for his family's downfall wasn't just his crime against the princess, but a larger political power struggle. Therefore, to save his family, someone else must take the blame for the incident. And in a fantasy world, what's more suitable for taking the blame than a demon? The sun sets over the grand Campbell estate. Moon knows there is only one day left to make arrangements. His task is to deal with the future queen, Celia. He reasons that an ordinary drug would never be enough to take down a powerful magic wielder like her, and he has no memory of such a drug existing in the mansion, which means the original Moon must have gotten it from there. As a dozing maid carries a tray nearby, Moon plots. He needs to sneak out and find the place mentioned in the novel where criminals and evil forces hide. He knows he can't divert the blame with words alone. Suddenly, a loud thud echoes through the hall. The clumsy maid has fallen, spilling the tea everywhere. She sits on the floor, dizzy and in pain, complaining that the master and madam's black tea is now ruined. Moon turns and apologizes, admitting he was lost in thought and didn't see her. The maid looks up, her eyes widening in shock as she recognizes him. Stuttering in fear, she shouts, "Young Master Moon." The maid scrambles towards him in a panic, desperate to clean the tea off his clothes. She looks at the stain on his pristine white uniform and internally screams, thinking it's all over. Absolutely terrified, the maid bows her head and begs for her life, pleading for him not to hit her or strip her naked and throw her on the street. She promises to never do it again. Moon is taken aback. He can't believe a simple spill of tea scared the girl so badly. He wonders just how terrible the original owner's reputation was. Moon gently places a hand on the maid's head, telling her it's okay and he won't punish her. She looks up, surprised. He then notices how warm she is, exclaiming, "You feel so hot." Using a modern person's unique therapy for assessment method, Moon places his forehead against hers. He confirms she has a fever and tells her she should take a rest, as her forehead is hot enough to boil an egg. The maid is flustered and speechless. The sick maid weakly protests, explaining that she can't rest because the coming-of-age banquet is tomorrow and they're already short-staffed. Just then, a voice calls out to young Master Moon. It's Anne, the dark-haired maid from his nightmares. Moon, seeing her, says she came at the right time and asks her to make arrangements for the sick maid. Moon kindly asks the sick maid her name. She shyly introduces herself as Noelle. Moon then instructs Anne to arrange for Noelle to have a rest. Anne protests, explaining that with the banquet tomorrow, every maid has duties, and if Noelle takes a rest, it will make the work much heavier for the others. Moon retorts that they can simply recruit more people, questioning if the huge Duke's mansion can't afford it. Moon turns away, giving a firm order. He tells Anne to inform the head maid that all unwell servants are to be given rest and that new ones will be recruited. He states he doesn't want a bunch of mentally disturbed patients appearing at his ceremony and causing trouble. Anne bows her head, her expression unreadable, as she agrees to pass the order on to the head maid, noting the stark departure from her master's usual commands. With his orders given, Moon turns and walks away. The scene lingers on Anne and the recovering Noelle, who are left behind in the grand hallway to process what just happened. Noelle expresses her confusion to Anne, mentioning that she remembers the young master previously saying he didn't want dirty outsiders in the mansion. Anne simply tells her not to overthink it and to follow the master's orders and go rest. As Noelle walks away, Anne watches her go, a thoughtful expression on her face. She notes the subtle changes in her master's behavior and decides she needs to start planning in advance to prevent any uncontrollable situations. Later in his room, Moon frantically searches through a treasure chest, tossing aside jewelry and valuables. He digs deep into the chest, muttering that what he's looking for isn't there, even though he clearly remembers it. He thinks about the beautiful Princess Celia again. He knows that to deal with a super magic genius like her, the only way is to use a special, expensive, and contraband psychedelic potion. And the only place that would sell such a thing is success. He finally finds what he was looking for, exclaiming that the original Moon really was a scumbag. He remembers that the item he now holds was quite difficult to get in the original novel. He holds up his prize, a black and gold underground black market VIP voucher. Night falls and a carriage makes its way across a stone bridge. The carriage stops in front of the Chesford Chamber of Commerce. Moon tells his attendants to wait, using the excuse that he's going to buy some jewelry for his parents to wear at the banquet tomorrow. With a confident smirk, Moon walks away from the carriage, his real mission about to begin. He disappears into the dark, crowded streets of the city. Following the route from the novel that he memorized, Moon makes his way through the deep, dark sewers of Belrin City, located just outside the royal city. Now disguised in a dark, hooded cloak and a white mask, Moon holds a torch aloft, convinced he has found the entrance to the black market. A sinister-looking guard blocks his path, demanding to know who he is. Moon calmly gives the password he remembers, sewer rats. The guard asks his purpose. Moon states he is looking for carrion and presents the VIP voucher as his credential. The guard accepts the voucher and invites the dear guest to come in. Moon peeks through the opening door with a triumphant smirk. He steps into the Leopold underground black market, a bustling and chaotic hidden town teeming with shadowy figures. As he walks through the market, he observes the various illicit goods for sale. Jars filled with questionable potion ingredients like brains, and cages holding glowing-eyed magical synthetic beasts. Moon notes that the market is just as the novel described, even having subhuman slaves for sale. He recalls that one of the protagonist's future teammates was bought from here. However, he dismisses these thoughts, reminding himself to focus on the real work first. He arrives at a small shop and rings a bell at the door. A mysterious shopkeeper in a red, cat-eared hood and a white mask pops up, enthusiastically welcoming their first guest of the day. The masked merchant asks what he would like to see, boasting that their small shop has everything. Moon, still disguised, gets straight to the point, stating he wants that potion, one that is colorless, odorless, specifically targets magicians, and renders them unconscious for hours. The merchant immediately understands, cheekily assuming it's for the kinky games rich people play. They even offer to recommend some good slave shops for a referral fee. Moon, having no time for such games, bluntly refuses the upsell and turns to leave. The merchant, seeing a big sale about to walk out the door, instantly drops the cheeky sales pitch and panics, desperately begging him to stay by insisting they do have the potion he needs. Having successfully stopped him, the merchant explains that the potion is indeed a rare treasure and asks him to wait just a moment while they search for it. As the merchant turns to rummage through their supplies, Moon is left to wait, giving him his first real opportunity to size up the mysterious shopkeeper. As he waits, Moon observes the merchant. He notes that while she wore a full-covering mask and her voice was magically processed to hide her gender, her tone and demeanor give him a strong suspicion. As the merchant bends over to search a box, muttering about 2 bottles she made recently, Moon gets an excellent view of her figure. His suspicion is confirmed as he internally exclaims, "And this awesome body." Moon deduces that the woman is likely a beauty, but her methods must be even more powerful than her figure to allow her to have a foothold in a dangerous place like this. He thinks strategically, realizing that if he can establish a good relationship with her, she might be able to help him when he is eventually exiled in the future. In a mysterious shop filled with strange potions, a shopkeeper in a red cat-eared hood reassures her client, "Wait for me a little longer, young master, tilde it's okay. As long as you have it, there's no rush." Suddenly, the bell at the door jingles, and Moon Campbell, the young master, turns his head, alerted by the sound of a new arrival. A tall, intimidating figure in a black cloak and mask enters the shop. The cheerful shopkeeper turns to greet the new arrival, saying, "Welcome, guest." The mysterious guest gets straight to the point, her red eyes gleaming from behind the mask. "I want to buy a special kind of drug that is very strong but won't leave any magical traces afterwards. Is there any?" The shopkeeper seems taken aback for a moment but quickly recovers. This. Yes, please wait a moment." She thinks to herself, "Normally no one is interested in this type of potion. It's really strange today." From the shadows, Moon observes the new customer. He notes her feminine figure and the faint scent emanating from her, wondering why a woman would need such a dangerous potion. Moon sighs internally, realizing the grim purpose of the drug. Buying this medicine is most likely to harm someone, but unfortunately I can't stop it. That guy who will be drugged, you're on your own." Biletter 1 ECF Qua, S companion finds the color rather conspicuous. Roid, 0C06897E0982-4DC5-8B3CB1, BA4A0F0F1, panel number 8. Narration, the shopkeeper explains. The shopkeeper explains away the concern. Customers don't need to worry. Although the color of this medicine is indeed bright, it is completely undetectable if placed in drinks such as red wine. Just drinking a tiny drop of it will make even an elephant lose consciousness instantly and faint for 2 or 3 hours. Moon's companion is startled by the claim, his eyes widening in shock. 1 drop can charm an elephant. Is this true? The shopkeeper confirms its potency and adds a sly warning. "Of course it's true, you get what you pay for. If you don't believe me, you can try it. But please note that if you fall asleep here, I will charge you 5,000 Emil's nursing fee per hour." The mysterious woman holding the potion simply replies, "That's not necessary." With the sales pitch complete, the shopkeeper states the price. The special sleeping potion, A Dream of Nankiang, is priced at 130,000 Emil. Our shop never accepts any form of bargaining. Would you like to pay by card or cash? The mysterious woman hesitates before admitting, I don't have enough Emil, and I don't intend to pay the bill with Emil." She proposes an alternative. "I can sell you an intelligence in exchange for the potion." The shopkeeper, intrigued, replies, "Oh, my dear, I have to remind you that 130,000 is not a small amount." The woman holds up a sealed envelope, confident in her offer. "This information is definitely worth 130,000. To different people, it may be worth far more than 130,000. The shopkeeper takes the letter, her interest piqued. "All right, let me see what kind of information it is." She begins to read the contents. The shopkeeper looks up from the letter, her masked face unreadable. That's interesting. Are you sure this information is true?" The woman replies coolly, "Whether it is true or not, I would like you to find out with your ability as the store owner." The shopkeeper seems satisfied. "Oh, this guest really trusts me, but as you said, this information is indeed worth 130,000. Here, this potion is yours." The woman takes the potion and gives a simple thanks. The shopkeeper sends her off, saying, "Take care, I won't see you off." After the mysterious woman leaves, Moon finally steps forward for his own transaction. "What about you, young master?" the shopkeeper asks. He presents a card, saying, "Swipe my card." The shopkeeper returns his crystal card and offers him a small gift, a second, smaller bottle containing a purple liquid. "A small gift? What is this bottle for?" Moon asks, surprised. The shopkeeper winks playfully. "That's the one I use, you know. It will be a better experience when paired with the red bottle." Moon accepts the gift. "Thank you, manager. By the way, the information that woman just mentioned." The shopkeeper leans on her desk, her interest clearly piqued by his question. "Oh my, young master, are you also interested in this information?" she adds slyly, "considering we are old acquaintances." She makes him a special offer. "I'll sell it to you at this price." Moon looks at the fingers she holds up and clarifies, 90,000. The shopkeeper corrects Moon with a sly tone, holding up her fingers, 900,000. Moon doesn't even flinch at the exorbitant price. He simply says, "No, thank you," and turns to leave the shop. As he walks out, Moon thinks to himself, annoyed. He realizes the shopkeeper made a massive profit by reselling the information he just declined. He concludes that the black market is full of profiteers, and he needs to find a more upright and trustworthy partner for his plans. The shopkeeper waves him off cheerfully as the door closes behind him. "Goodbye, young master. Please come next time, Tilda." Once Moon is gone, the shopkeeper falls silent, contemplating the recent events. She removes her mask, revealing the face of a beautiful young woman with long, dark hair. She muses aloud about the valuable information she now possesses, connecting the dots between the Campbell's ceremony, the presence of the third princess, and the Duke's sudden need for manpower. A cunning idea forms in her mind. She recalls the long-standing animosity between the second prince and Grand Duke Campbell, and the separate rivalry with Duke Raymond. Holding her mask, she thinks, such an interesting thing, why not sell to both sides? A wicked smile plays on her lips as she relishes her own deviousness. Killing two birds with one stone, I am really a bad guy. The scene shifts. It is the following night, and the Grand Campbell's palace is lit up, bustling with activity for the coming-of-age ceremony. Inside, the ballroom is filled with nobility. Moon stands beside his father, the long-haired Grand Duke Campbell, greeting their guests. A nervous nobleman presents his daughter to the Grand Duke, urging her to give her greetings. The young lady, blushing and stammering, can barely get her words out. Her eyes land on Moon and her face drains of color. She is clearly terrified of him, sweating and trembling in his presence. Overcome with fear, the girl hastily makes an excuse. "Mother is calling me, sorry to leave now," and flees the scene, leaving her father and the Campbells in awkward silence. Her father apologizes profusely for his daughter's shyness. Moon, however, puts on a kind and understanding smile. "It's okay, I don't take it to heart. It's our fault for not welcoming you well." As they take their seats, Moon allows himself a small, knowing smile. As expected, he thinks, fully aware that the girl's reaction is due to the original Moon's terrible reputation. He glances around the room, noticing that all the young noblewomen, including the daughter of Marquis Hill, are looking at him with the same fearful, disdainful expressions. He lets out a small, frustrated sigh in a comical chibai form, lamenting, "Alas, Tilda, after all, the original owner's reputation is really too bad." Suddenly, a hand rests on his head, startling him. He looks up to see his father. "I am very satisfied with your performance today," the Grand Duke says, looking pleased. His father continues with words of encouragement. "I was a little worried before, but now it seems that it was unnecessary. After tonight you will no longer be a boy, but a real man of my Campbell family. Do your best." Moon looks up at his father, a genuine, warm smile on his face, and replies with determination, "I will try my best." Just then a voice calls for attention. "Everyone, please be quiet." All heads turn towards the grand entrance, where the silhouettes of important guests have appeared. The announcer's voice booms through the hall, beginning the introduction of the guest of honor. "Let us welcome the third in line to the Leopold Empire." The crowd looks on in awe as the announcer continues, heralding the arrival of the pure white girl, blessed by the goddess of ice and snow. And there she is, resplendent with long silver hair and an aura of cold nobility. The announcer presents her to the assembly, the third princess of the empire, Her Highness Selija. Grand Duke Campbell claps a hand on Moon's shoulder. "I will go and receive the other two dukes. I leave this place to you. Remember not to neglect Her Royal Highness the Princess." Moon nods in agreement. "Okay, father." Now left alone to his duties, Moon approaches the guest of honor, his arms open in a welcoming gesture. "Princess Tilda." He greets her with a charming smile. "Long time no see, Master Moon. You are so charming today." Princess Selija offers a cool, polite reply, though her eyes remain unsmiling. "Really, thank you for the compliment." She performs a graceful curtsy, adding a subtle barb. However, it is rare to hear such words of praise from young Master Moon. Moon laughs, feigning innocence. "Haha, Your Highness, what you said makes me sound like the kind of rude person who can't even control his mouth." Selija gives him a piercing look, her voice laced with ice. "Isn't it?" The single question catches Moon completely off guard. Recovering quickly, Moon smoothly transitions back into the role of a perfect host. "Haha, Your Highness must be tired after coming from the royal city. It is better to go in and have a rest first." The princess accepts with a quiet, "Thank you for that." As soon as she turns away, Moon breathes a sigh of relief. "Phew, she's finally gone," he thinks, wiping a bead of sweat. "She's really beautiful, but also really scary." As expected of the first female laid in the original book, her aura is truly terrifying. While greeting other nobles, Princess Selija finds her thoughts drifting back to their brief conversation. She feels that Moon is a little different tonight than before. She glances back at him from across the room, a thoughtful look in her eyes. Is it because he's become more polite, she wonders, intrigued by this unexpected change. Meanwhile, Moon's attention is caught by the chatter of nearby nobles. He overhears them gossiping about an illegitimate daughter who recently made a name for herself by dueling her fiancé. The nobles continue their disdainful chatter, expressing disbelief that Count Bugard would hand over the position of heir to her. Alas, not only is she an illegitimate child, but she is also a woman. How can she be qualified to inherit the title of Earl? Just as they are badmouthing the count, the subjects of their gossip arrive. Two young women walk through the archway, and one of the nobles quickly shushes his companion. Moon's eyes fix on the newcomers, a serious expression on his face. He thinks to himself, finally she is here, the real protagonist of the original book, the ultimate female main character of this world. The two women make their way into the hall. The one in the light, with long brown hair and a confident stride, is Ariel Bugard. Ariel walks directly up to Moon, her expression cold and challenging. Hello, young Master Moon, we meet again. How have you been recently? Moon starts to reply with a polite smile. Ah, I'm fine, but is cut off by an angry shout from the side, you lowly bastard. A sycophantic nobleman, trying to curry favor, charges forward yelling, how can you talk to our young Master Moon? His interruption startles Moon. Before the man can make a bigger scene, Moon swiftly grabs him by the hair and forcefully covers his mouth, yelling shut up, to silence him. Without missing a beat, Moon turns back to Ariel, his charming smile perfectly intact. I'm certainly doing fine lately, Miss Ariel Bugard. Thank you for your concern. Ariel is completely stunned. His polite, calm response is the last thing she expected, leaving her speechless. Ha, you. She eyes him suspiciously, her mind racing. What's going on? This guy didn't even call me a lowly, illegitimate daughter like he did before. His brain can actually remember my full name. Has he gotten it, or is there some conspiracy? Ignoring Ariel's confusion, Moon turns his attention to her timid companion Lee. He offers a gentle hand and asks, this must be Miss Lee, right? The girl is shocked that he knows who she is. Moon continues smoothly, his voice full of charm as he addresses her by her full name. Of course, how could I not know the name of tonight's important guest, Miss Lee Angel? He extends his hand for a handshake, but before Lee can even react, Ariel's hand flashes out, slapping it away with a sharp, protective smack. Ariel stands defensively between Moon and Lee, her voice sharp with suspicion. What are you up to? She gets right in his face, her eyes blazing with protective fire as Lee trembles behind her. Moon Campbell, listen to me. She delivers her warning in a fierce whisper. The reason I'm here is purely for your father's sake. I don't care what conspiracy you have, just come at me. If you dare to have any evil thoughts towards Lee, I will never let you go. With her threat delivered, Ariel turns her back on him, grabbing Lee's arm. Lee, let's go. She leads her friend away, leaving Moon alone once again. Moon watches them go, a resigned smile on his face. Alas, he thinks, it seems that she has a deep stereotype of the original owner, and it is difficult to change it in a short time. But his expression quickly shifts to one of cool confidence. He decides it doesn't matter. After tonight, their destinies will be two completely parallel lines that never intersect. He resolves to let her have her bright future, as he will have his. Just like that, under the watchful eyes of his parents, Moon is formally presented to society from the grand balcony, officially marking his coming of age. With the formal ceremony over, the ball begins. Moon finds Princess Elijah, and with a charming smile, offers his hand. I wonder if I would have the honor to ask you to dance with me. The princess is visibly surprised by the polite invitation. Elijah hesitates for a moment before placing her hand in his. You, forget it, tonight is your coming-of-age ceremony, so I naturally have no reason to refuse. Moon thanks her graciously. The surrounding nobles are stunned by this development, whispering amongst themselves in disbelief. Moon Campbell, dancing with the princess, it was unheard of. From across the room, Lee spots the unlikely pair and tugs on Ariel's sleeve, exclaiming, Sister Ariel, look. Ariel, however, is more interested in a slice of cake. All eyes are on Moon and Princess Elijah as they take center stage, moving gracefully across the dance floor to the sound of the orchestra. As they dance, Elijah offers a small compliment. You have good dancing steps. Moon humbly accepts the praise, replying, thank you for the compliment, but it is still at the beginner level. Elijah looks at him intently, her eyes searching his. You have indeed changed, Moon Campbell. She clarifies, no, it's the way you invite people. Moon is momentarily confused. Seeing his expression, Elijah elaborates, I remember you said this when you invited a viscount's daughter to the last college ball. She then flawlessly imitates the original Moon's arrogant, condescending tone. Woman, be glad and cheer, for this young master has shown mercy and granted you the right to dance with me. The memory makes Moon break out in a cold sweat. Moon is mortified, blushing and stammering, unable to form a coherent response to being confronted with his past self's awfulness. Elijah looks at him with a deadpan expression and asks, how is it did I imitate it well? Shaking off his embarrassment, Moon quickly apologizes. I was wrong, Your Highness Elijah. Could you please forget what happened back then? As the violins play on, the dance continues, but the conversation has taken a decidedly serious turn. Elijah then makes a surprising request. After this dance, could you please come to my room? Recognizing her implication regarding their engagement, Moon reassures her, I understand, Your Highness. I have no intention of overstepping my bounds. Leaning closer, Moon reveals his true purpose. It is precisely the engagement that I would like to discuss in detail with Your Highness. This piques Elijah's interest. She questions him, do you need to have a private conversation with me about our engagement? As they continue to glide across the dance floor, the center of attention, Moon lays out his argument logically. I know that Her Royal Highness does not like me, and that our marriage is actually just a political marriage arranged by His Majesty, the King, in order to maintain his relationship with my father. He continues, explaining the political bind she is in. If Her Highness were to propose to cancel the engagement, it will inevitably affect the credibility of the royal family and the father-daughter relationship between you and His Majesty. Am I right? Selija quietly concedes the point. Moon presses his advantage, suggesting they have a common goal. So I guess, at least when it comes to calling off the engagement, we're on the same page. If we work together, maybe we can find a decent way to cancel our engagement. What do you think, Her Highness? Princess Selija considers his proposal, and a small, thoughtful smile touches her lips. She agrees. I understand. This is something that can only be discussed between you and me alone. Moon can hardly contain his glee. His plan worked perfectly. He thinks to himself, she took the bait. Sorry, Her Highness. In order to keep the story going smoothly, I can only. He inwardly celebrates successfully manipulating the princess. Just as Moon is mentally patting himself on the back, Selija asks a question that shatters his composure. Where is your room? His eyes go wide in utter shock, his mind short-circuiting. Before the bewildered Moon can react, Selija takes charge. She grabs his hand and starts pulling him off the dance floor. There's no need to wait for the dance to end. Let's go now, she declares, leaving him to stammer Her Highness. In a complete reversal of his plan, Moon is dragged away from the crowded ballroom by a determined Princess Selija, leaving a trail of shocked and gossiping nobles in their wake. His scheme to control his fate has taken a wild and unexpected turn. Two maids are cleaning a luxurious hall. The silver-haired maid gossips to her colleague, commenting that Princess Selija left with the mentally retarded young master. The dark-skinned maid ignores the gossip, urging her partner to action. She reminds her that they must act quickly as they are in the territory of the Lionheart King, implying a sense of danger and urgency. The scene shifts to a lavish room where the young master, Moon, offers a glass of red wine to Princess Selija. However, she flatly refuses his offer. Selija closes her eyes and firmly reiterates that she cannot drink alcohol, not even a single drop. Moon seems to accept her refusal, though he is internally panicking. Moon's internal monologue reveals his frustration. He complains that the original novel never mentioned the princess couldn't drink, and now he has no way to administer the red medicine he prepared. Thinking on his feet, Moon changes his approach. He pleasantly asks Selija what she would prefer if not wine, suggesting coffee or black tea. Selija looks at him, slightly puzzled by the limited options. Moon explains with a smile that due to some unforeseen circumstances, only red wine and black tea are available tonight. Hearing this, Selija agrees to have black tea. Delighted that his plan is back on track, Moon cheerfully announces he will go get the tea now and skips away, leaving a silent Selija on the couch. Watching him leave with such enthusiasm, Selija can't help but wonder to herself, finding it strange that someone could be so joyful just from making tea. Out of sight, Moon begins to prepare the tea. With his back turned, he gets ready to execute his mischievous plan. He pulls out the potion, thinking that while one drop is potent enough for an elephant, he should add a bit more for a powerful magician like Selija. He also decides against using the second, unknown potion to be safe. Suddenly, Selija appears right behind him, asking if he's done yet. Startled, Moon shrieks and fumbles, dropping the potions he was holding. Trying to act natural, Moon turns around with a strained smile, assuring Selija that the tea will be ready very soon. She watches him, seemingly oblivious to his clumsy panic. With his hands behind his back, Moon realizes in horror that in his panic, he has spilled the red aphrodisiac potion all over his other hand, mixing it with the other spilled substance. He glances nervously over his shoulder at Princess Selija, who is now sitting back on the sofa, patiently waiting and unaware of the mess he's made. Wiping sweat from his brow, Moon breathes a sigh of relief. He's glad that the medicine doesn't have any magical fluctuations, or his scheme would have been instantly exposed. But just as he calms down, his eyes widen. A sudden, terrible thought crosses his mind, and he lets out a small huh. He looks in horror at a large red splash on the wall. A significant amount of the precious potion has been wasted. No, he screams internally. His mind flashes to his grand plan. He was going to dilute the potion, sell it as sleeping pills, and earn his first pot of gold. Now, his dreams of wealth are all gone. Selija's voice calls out for young Master Moon, snapping him out of his despair. He quickly responds that he's coming and picks up the tray with the 2 teacups. After a moment, he returns to the room, apologizing to the princess for the long wait. Selija looks down at the cup of tea he has served her. She seems hesitant, noting that his family's black tea looks unusual. The view focuses on the teacup resting on her lap. The liquid inside is not the color of black tea at all. Instead, it's a vibrant, sparkling red. Sweating profusely, Moon scrambles for an explanation. He claims it's a precious tea from the East called Big Red Robe. He blurts out the name, desperately hoping she'll believe the outlandish lie. Selija's gaze turns icy and skeptical. Unconvinced by his flimsy excuse, she calmly challenges him. Is that so? Well, young Master Moon, you go first. Moon feigns offense, asking if Her Highness suspects him of tampering with the drinks. Selija calmly replies that as the host, it is basic noble etiquette for him to serve the tea first. Cornered, Moon realizes he has no choice. Resigned, Moon raises his own teacup to his lips, intending to prove its innocence. But just as he's about to drink, Selija tells him to wait a minute. Before he can react, Selija reaches across the table, stating that his cup of tea seems to taste better than hers. With a cunning smile, she holds up her cup and asks, "Do you mind if we swap?" Moon is left utterly speechless, his face a mask of pure shock. A wave of panic washes over Moon as he watches Selija drink the drugged tea that was meant for her all along. His plan has backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Moon can only watch in horror, his hand trembling as he reaches out to stop her, but it's already too late. The effect is instantaneous. Selija's face flushes red, and she glares at Moon with a look of betrayal, spilling the tea as she accusingly shouts, "You." She drops the cup, and a strange, fiery energy erupts from it as it shatters, a reaction far more violent than a simple sleeping potion should cause. Overwhelmed by the potion's unexpected effect, Selija loses consciousness and collapses onto the sofa, leaving a stunned Moon to deal with the consequences. Moon reflects on the situation, relieved he was smart enough to put a sleeping drug in both cups. He muses that since the original novel never mentioned the princess couldn't drink alcohol, his deviation has created an accidental sequel to the plot. He quickly snaps out of his thoughts, remembering the original plot. The female main character is supposed to arrive soon, find them unconscious, and kill him. He realizes he has to prepare the scene immediately. To create a convincing crime scene, Moon begins to stage an assault. He starts by pulling down Selija's stockings and loosening her dress to make it look like a struggle occurred. He considers untying the bottom of her dress but comically decides against it, worried she might catch a cold. Instead, he settles for messing up her hair a bit. Next, he turns his attention to himself. He struggles comically to rip off his own tight-fitting noble attire to complete the look. Finally, with a sigh of relief, he gets his shirt off, revealing a surprisingly chiseled physique underneath. He stands proudly, ready for the next phase of his plan. With Selija suggestively posed on the couch, Moon considers his mission accomplished. Now, all that's left is to wait for the story's main character to walk in. Time begins to pass in the quiet, ornate room. Moon pulls out his pocket watch to check the time, a flicker of concern on his face. He begins to wonder what's going on. A full half an hour has passed. According to the original plot, the heroine Ariel should have rushed in by now. Moon grows anxious, wondering where she could be. He racks his brain, trying to remember the exact sequence of events from the original story that led to Ariel's arrival. He recalls a key scene from the novel. The heroine, Ariel's, clothes were accidentally stained by a seriously ill maid at the Duke's mansion. The memory continues. After the incident, Ariel had then made her way to the bathroom to find something to clean her stained clothes. It was during this detour that she happened upon the room, catching the original villainous owner of Moon's body just as he was about to assault the princess. The realization hits Moon like a bolt of lightning. The key trigger was a seriously ill maid. Could it be? His thoughts race to a single person, the only one it could be. In his mind, he screams out in despair, "Noelle." Moon stares in disbelief, his mind reeling from the implication of what just happened. No way this. He looks at the peacefully sleeping Selija, the terrible truth dawning on him. His interference means he has successfully altered the original storyline. As he looks at Selija's flushed face, he realizes the gravity of his situation. This isn't a minor change, this is a big problem. He tries to calm himself down, reasoning that since the princess has been charmed, he can still salvage the situation. Behind him, an ethereal image of a masked Selija manifests, surrounded by a powerful blue aura. Suddenly, the air grows cold. Moon shivers, wondering why it's gotten so chilly in the middle of summer as a frosty mist begins to creep around him. The cold intensifies, and he lets out a pained grunt, feeling a sharp, freezing sensation wash over him. A massive wave of ice magic erupts from Selija's unconscious body, blasting through the room with incredible force. The ice pins Moon to the ground. Selija, her eyes now covered by a strange mask of ice, floats above him, her body radiating a powerful, frosty energy. Trapped beneath her, Moon panics, frantically trying to explain that it's all a misunderstanding. "Her Highness, please listen to my explanation." In her feverish state, Selija's eyes flutter slightly. She murmurs, "It's so hot." The aphrodisiac is making her burn up from the inside, causing her latent ice magic to run rampant as a defense mechanism. Her face flushed, she continues in a daze. The body wants. The potion is having its intended effect, but with a disastrously magical side effect. Moon realizes her state is completely wrong and dangerous. "No, this is wrong," he shouts, trying to get away and promising to call a doctor. He tries to push her off of him, but the moment his hands make contact, they are instantly encased in sharp, painful ice crystals. Drawn to his body heat to soothe her internal fire, Selija grabs him and leans in closer. "Your body is so cool, I like it," she murmurs as Moon desperately begs for her to wake up. As Selija moves in to kiss him, Moon screams internally for the protagonist, Ariel, to save him. His staged play has become a terrifying reality. The scene abruptly shifts to the Duke's palace, where the heroine, Ariel, is looking at a stain on her clothes. Ariel walks down an elegant hallway, annoyed. She mutters that a little fool named Lee had been careless and gotten cake on her clothes, an event that differs from what Moon remembers from the novel. As she walks, she suddenly stops, sensing something ahead. She peers down a long, ornate corridor, feeling a presence. Who is there?" she calls out. A brown-haired maid steps out from a doorway, startling Ariel as she says, "Excuse me, miss." The maid politely informs Ariel that the area ahead is a restricted part of the Duke's mansion and asks her to turn back, sparking Ariel's curiosity. When Ariel presses for details, the maid simply smiles and says it's a secret she can't share. Annoyed, Ariel clicks her tongue and calls the maid stingy. The maid then notices the cake stain on Ariel's clothes. Ariel explains she was looking for a toilet to wash it, and the maid kindly offers to handle the small matter for her. The maid places her hands over the stain, and with a brilliant flash of emerald light, she uses magic to make the dirt vanish completely. Ariel is completely taken aback, impressed that even the maids in the Grand Duke's mansion are capable of using magic. The maid, seeing she has successfully diverted Ariel's attention from the restricted area, humbly dismisses the feat as nothing worth mentioning, already planning her next move to keep the heroine distracted. After cleaning the dress, the maid gives Ariel a friendly reminder. She mentions that a limited amount of special pachichi cake will be served at the banquet soon, and advises her not to miss it. Ariel's eyes sparkle with excitement. At the mention of the rare dessert, she completely forgets her earlier suspicions, her mind now focused solely on getting her hands on the pachichi cake. She quickly thanks the maid for her help and dashes off, announcing she has to go grab the cake. The maid politely says, "You're welcome," having successfully diverted the heroine from her path. With a pleasant smile, the maid waves goodbye to the departing Ariel, telling her to take care. The moment Ariel is out of sight, however, the maid's friendly demeanor vanishes. She glances back with a cold, sharp expression, her mysterious objective seemingly accomplished. A brown-haired maid walks through the corridor, her thoughts troubled. She finds another maid a bit strange, smelling of blood, and is also worried about a person in hiding. However, she quickly dismisses the thoughts, deciding it's none of her business since it's all happening within the Duke's mansion. She winks playfully to herself, thinking about Princess Selija. She muses that Her Highness is already a grown-up and the leading magic genius of her generation, so there's no way she could be taken in by a stupid playboy. Her priorities quickly shift as she gets excited, declaring that nothing is more important than her pachichi cake. She eagerly announces her arrival to her beloved dessert. Elsewhere, a dark-skinned maid with a knife in hand speaks to her accomplice. She confirms that the girl who just left was originally the target of number 9, who was her former partner, and that's how she has information on her. Her silver-haired companion kneels, recalling the failed mission. She explains that she fell into that girl's hands, and that number 9 was killed by her despite being 2 realms higher. The dark-skinned maid urges her to hurry, as they don't have much time. She explains that it won't be easy to breach the gap set up by the Lionheart King Ron Cabell, which covers the entire Duke's palace. The silver-haired maid looks worried. She knows they have to hurry, fearing their mission will fail if Moon Campbell or Princess Selija suddenly appears. However, she believes there's still time based on her earlier investigation. The scene shifts to a tense moment. A person on all fours is seen from behind, with an observer commenting that it looks like he's doing that. A shirtless and muscular Moon Campbell lies on the floor, breathing heavily. Exhausted, he declares that it's finally over. He reflects on his close call, thinking he dodged a bullet and managed to keep his 30-year identity as a great magician. He believes that if he had taken the last step with the princess, he would have been exiled or worse. But now, it seems, it doesn't make any difference. A sharp, glowing blade suddenly appears, pointed right at his throat. An enraged Princess Selija stands over him, her body radiating a frosty aura as she wields an ice sword. She gives him one last chance to speak his final words. Moon Campbell, still lying on the floor, puts on a forced, cheerful smile. He casually says that if she won't tell him, then he won't say anything either. Selija is not amused. Ice magic crackles around her leg as she prepares to strike. Seeing this, Moon Campbell's cheerful facade shatters into panic, and he desperately begs her to wait. He panics, thinking that it's over and he'll die without even a chance for rebirth if he can't calm her down. He decides his only option is to gamble, using the wisdom of modern people. Selija watches him, her expression cold. Moon begins his gamble, quoting a famous line, "There was once a true love in front of me, but I didn't cherish it. I didn't regret it until I lost it." He continues his dramatic monologue with a hopeful expression, "If God could give me another chance." But his words have no effect. The ice blade comes swinging down towards him as he lets out a terrified scream. Selija stops just short, her expression filled with contempt. "So that's why you're so disgusting?" she asks, her voice dripping with ice. Moon Campbell, sweating, tries to defend himself, claiming his feelings are sincere and that they haven't actually made it past that point yet. Selija's anger flares. "You call such dirty and vulgar means sincerity? Are you kidding me, Moon Campbell?" She tells him that if he truly liked her, he should have impressed her with his character, strength, and sincerity like a real man. If he had done that, she might have even considered abiding by the marriage agreement. Her eyes fill with disappointed tears. "But you chose to drug me, the most despicable and shameless method." Moon Campbell gets up, trying to apologize and explain that he had no other choice. But Selija cuts him off, her voice booming with authority as she commands him to shut up and get down on his knees. Just as the tense confrontation reaches its peak, a sudden knock echoes from the door, interrupting the charged atmosphere. Moon Campbell remains on his knees, looking up at Selija as she glares down at him, the tension thick between them. Selija grabs him by the neck, telling him to ask the people outside to leave. He explains that the room is soundproof, and no sound can get in or out, except for knocking. Selija clicks her tongue in annoyance, a frustrated look on her face. She decides to spare his life for now, ordering him to get dressed and open the door. Defeated, Moon Campbell meekly agrees. Having woken from the nightmare, Moon Campbell, now fully dressed, contemplates his grim reality. He realizes he's facing a big problem with only 3 dreadful options left. He considers his potential fates as Selija from his nightmare looks on disdainfully. He could be killed by Selija herself, hanged in public by an angry king, or cut to pieces by an unknown person in a dungeon. No matter the path, it's a dead end. He opens the door to his room, muttering in frustration about the main character's timing, questioning why they would show up now after everything has been settled. He is greeted by an unfamiliar voice calling him Young Master Moon, and he looks up, puzzled. The dark-skinned maid from before stands there with a tray of cakes. She explains that Madam saw him chatting with the princess and sent her with snacks, thinking he might be hungry. Moon thanks her for her hard work. He casually tells her to place the tray on a nearby table, and she agrees. As she passes, a thought strikes Moon Campbell. He stops, a flicker of suspicion on his face, as he realizes he has never seen this maid before. The maid calmly explains that she was just selected to join the Duke's mansion last night, so it's normal he doesn't know her. Moon counters, saying he remembers being told they only hired ordinary servants for the banquet due to a lack of extra maid uniforms. The maid's friendly facade drops. Her eyes narrow into a cold, dangerous glare, as she simply confirms his suspicions with a soft yeah. The cakes go flying as the maid dashes past him in a blur of dark energy. Realizing the truth, Moon Campbell screams, "Assassin." A jolt of realization hits him. He understands with horror that the assassin's target isn't him. His eyes widen as he screams the true target's name, Selija. A close-up shows Selija's calm, unsuspecting face. The assassin, wielding 2 daggers and shrouded in dark energy, leaps through the air towards an unsuspecting Selija. A massive explosion of power erupts as the assassin's dark energy clashes violently with Selija's bright blue ice magic. Moon Campbell is caught in the shockwave, thrown back by a powerful gust of wind and ice magic. Struggling against the magical torrent, he grits his teeth and calls out Selija's name, his face a mask of desperation. Inside the room, the battle rages. Selija, now armed with her ice sword, expertly parries the assassin's dual-wielded daggers. With a piercing gaze, Selija confronts her attacker, asking if her stupid brother was the one who sent her. The assassin smirks, declaring her employer's identity a top secret. She confidently tells the princess that she will definitely die here today. Meanwhile, the silver-haired assassin performs a ritual. Golden magic circles flare to life on the walls as she prepares a spell to ensure the 3rd princess is assassinated in the palace. The golden light intensifies as the magical ritual nears completion. The silver-haired assassin declares, "This is your end." A massive explosion of golden light erupts, the force of the blast sending the assassin flying backward. The assassin is stunned by the power of the attack. She thinks to herself that with such a dense magical assault, even the instructors at St. Mary's College would have no choice but to retreat. Her thoughts are cut short as she hears Selija's voice chanting. Ice condenses into shape, frost turns into a spear, bestowing supreme power. The assassin looks on in shock, bleeding from cuts on her face, while a determined Selija glares back at her. Meanwhile, locked outside, Moon Campbell frantically tries to open the door. He panics, realizing that when gods fight, mortals suffer, and he needs to get away before he gets killed in the crossfire. His heart sinks as he confirms his worst fear. The door is locked tight. A wave of powerful ice magic bursts from under the door, knocking him to the ground. He curses in frustration. Peeking through the crack, he realizes the door was tampered with by the maid. This confuses him, as he recalls that there was no assassination plot in the original book he knows. He stops, a sudden, horrifying thought striking him. Wait, could it be that? He remembers a scene from the past, where he, in his role as the arrogant villain, had given an order to the head maid. He had instructed her to send away all servants who were unwell and recruit replacements from outside the mansion, not wanting mentally disturbed patients at his coming-of-age ceremony. The horrifying realization hits him. It was his own order that created the opening for the assassins to infiltrate. He recalls that the decision to seek external assistance was made just last night and wonders if someone is monitoring the mansion 24/7. Suddenly, the door shatters inwards with a blast of ice magic, sending Moon Campbell reeling back in shock. He feels utterly helpless, knowing his own weak body can't possibly survive a battle of this level. He thinks that all he can do is pray that Selija can defeat the assassin. But as he peeks into the room again, he realizes the assassin's target is only Selija. The original story has been changed, and the future is now unknown. A selfish thought crosses his mind as Selija stands powerfully in the distance. Is her winning really a good ending for him? He closes his eyes and considers the alternative. If Selija were to unfortunately die here, then no one would ever know what he had tried to do to her just now. Watching the battle, he can't help but be impressed, admitting to himself that Princess Selija truly is a super genius chosen by God. Selija calmly analyzes her opponent's strategy, identifying their use of short bursts of footwork, light arrow magic, and gravity magic. She correctly deduces that the spells without magical fluctuations were the work of the other assassin in the next room. The wounded assassin admits Selija saw through their plan, just as the rumors said. However, she counters that the rumors aren't accurate enough, boasting that she's killed magical geniuses before and is considered a monster even among them. Selija, radiating with power, holds her ice sword ready. She offers the assassin a deal. Tell me who is behind this and I will spare your life. The assassin bursts into laughter. She says that as an assassin, she shouldn't be engaging in so much nonsense, but she smirks, revealing her true intention. Sometimes, assassins also need to delay time right. The assassin deploys smoke bombs, creating a diversion as she prepares her next move. From the adjacent room, the silver-haired accomplice shouts that the room is now completely blocked, urging her partner to hurry as she can't hold the spell for long. With the time she bought, the dark-skinned assassin pulls a glowing red artifact from her uniform, ready to use it against the princess. The assassin holds up the red artifact, revealing her dark purpose. She offers a sacrifice of the blood of 100 young children's hearts to the dark gods of her world. Selija's eyes widen in horror and recognition as she identifies the foul magic, the ritual of the evil god. The assassin continues her incantation, her body shrouded in dark energy as she pleads for power from her malevolent deities. A sinister, blood-red energy emanates from the ritual, its power aimed directly at Selija. The dark ritual's power clashes with Selija's ice magic, suppressing her abilities with a wave of red energy. Selija is thrown back, her magic neutralized by the evil ritual. She is wounded but defiant. Gritting her teeth in fury, Selija glares at her opponent. "Evil priests, you gutter rats dare to appear before me," she snarls. The assassin calmly agrees with the princess's assessment. "Rats, indeed, to her royal highness we are rats. But her highness the princess, you will die in the hands of rats soon." The assassin lunges, brandishing her dagger for another attack. She unleashes a furious barrage of strikes, laughing maniacally as blood splatters through the air. The assassin's attack halts, her expression turning to one of confusion. Huh. Selija stands her ground, battered and bleeding, but alive. The assassin is impressed, noting that Selija's swordsmanship is also good, as she managed to avoid all the vital points. The assassin presses her advantage, shouting that now, Selija can't use her powerful ice magic. She kicks the weakened princess, declaring that she is now just a lamb to be slaughtered. Selija is sent crashing into the wall from the force of the blow. She stumbles, her body covered in wounds and her clothes tattered. Breathing heavily, Selija struggles to stay conscious, clearly nearing her limit. The assassin stretches, feeling satisfied and comfortable. She decides it's time to end things. "Next, princess. Your head, I'll take it." She lunges forward with a crazed grin, going for the killing blow. A sharp slice cuts through the air, followed by a spray of fresh blood. Someone has been stabbed. Both the assassin and Princess Selija look on in utter shock, their eyes wide with disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. Moon Campbell stands protectively in front of Selija, having taken the dagger meant for her. Selija looks up at him, stunned, as he shields her from the attack. The assassin freezes, staring in disbelief at the man who has suddenly appeared and thwarted her final blow, Moon Campbell. The scene erupts into chaos. An assassin disguised as a maid lands a vicious kick on Moon Campbell, while Princess Selija, already wounded, shouts his name in alarm. Selija, her face streaked with blood, stares in utter disbelief. Her eyes are wide with confusion as she questions Moon's actions, asking, "You, why?" Moon Campbell coughs up a spray of blood, the impact of the blow rattling him. He seems to be pondering the same question, thinking to himself, "Yes, why is that?" as if he too is surprised by his own choices. From the shadows of a doorway, the assassin offers Moon a way out. She clarifies that their only target is Selija, and he is free to leave. The path to safety is right in front of him. He stands at a crossroads, frozen by indecision. A part of him knows he could just walk away and let Selija die, but his conscience won't let him. A faint, determined smile appears on Moon's bloodied face. He makes his choice. He simply can't bring himself to abandon her. With a surge of adrenaline, Moon throws himself in front of Selija, shielding her from the assassin's next move while shouting her name. Shocked by his sudden act of self-sacrifice, Selija yells at him, urging him to run and save himself. She can't understand why he's choosing to stay and fight. The assassin is enraged by Moon's interference. She screams at him, calling him a useless dandy, furious that his unexpected courage has foiled her plans. Her eyes glow with murderous intent as she snarls, her face a mask of pure fury. Moon's defiance has made the fight personal. Ignoring the injured Moon, the assassin turns her full attention back to Selija. The two women face each other in a tense standoff. The assassin lunges, unleashing a deadly slash of energy straight at Selija, determined to complete her mission. However, Selija proves to be a formidable opponent. She counters the attack, leaving the assassin mortally wounded and collapsing to the ground. Though battered and bruised, Selija stands victorious over her fallen enemy. With a cold and distant look, she declares that the fight is finally over. But the victory came at a great cost. Moon lies on the floor, gasping for air in a pool of his own blood, his body broken from protecting the princess. Selija sits by the dying Moon, her mind racing. She questions his motives, asking if he hired the assassin and why he would risk his life to save her. He simply denies everything. She coldly points out the logic he ignored. If she died, his rebellious behavior would be a secret forever. Letting her perish was the most rational choice for him. Gazing weakly at the ceiling, Moon dismisses her reasoning. He knows his actions were not driven by logic, admitting that none of that matters anymore. Zelija recalls his words from a past conversation, where he spoke of pursuing her openly if he were a true man. Suddenly, his reckless sacrifice begins to make a painful kind of sense. With a fragile, bloody smile, Moon looks to her for validation. In his final moments, he needs to know if he has finally lived up to his own words. Zelija states the grim reality. He has only 10 breaths left. She offers to carry his last words to his family, a final courtesy for the man who saved her life. He weakly reaches for her, insisting there's no need for last words. He believes his death is the best outcome for everyone, that the world is better off without a nuisance like him. As his hand touches hers, he begins to speak. He apologizes to her, and before she can process it, he continues, leaving her in stunned silence. With his last ounce of strength, Moon Campbell lays his soul bare, confessing the true reason for his sacrifice. "I really like you," he whispers, his eyes closing as the admission finally escapes. His hand, which had been reaching for hers, goes limp and falls to the ground. The confession hangs in the silence between them, a final plea in the face of death. Now, all that's left is Zelija and the weight of his last words. But Zelija finds no comfort in his final words. Staring down at his lifeless body, she whispers that after everything he's done to her, a simple apology and his death are not enough to repay the debt. Her grief quickly turns to a burning rage. Tears stream from her eyes as she glares at him, shouting his name with all the pain and anger in her heart. A torrent of blue energy erupts from her, swirling around Moon's body. She refuses to grant him the peace of death, declaring that she does not accept his apology. With a voice echoing with power and sorrow, she places a curse upon him, a final, binding command. He must not die. He must live to pay for his sins. Suddenly, Moon finds himself floating in a peaceful, starry void. All the pain, fatigue, and dizziness are gone, replaced by a comfortable warmth. He wonders if this is what it feels like to be dead. He reflects on the outcome. While the end result was still death, this time it was his own choice. He even sees a silver lining, having got to act heroic and confess his feelings to Zelija. Still, he admits it was a loss to die so soon after being reborn. He strengthens his resolve, vowing that he cannot be a heartless scumbag like the body's original owner. His introspection is interrupted by the appearance of a strange, swirling mass of dark energy that materializes before him. The ominous shadow begins to creep towards him, wrapping its tendrils around his ethereal form, causing him to panic. The darkness engulfs him completely, and a strange system window appears, showing a progress loading bar. It lists his sins and their progress: arrogance at 50%, jealousy at 99%, and strangely, gluttony at -90%. Overwhelmed, Moon can only shout in confusion. From the darkness, a book appears. Scrawled across its pages is a cryptic message: "Keep struggling for my Moon Campbell." It seems some unknown entity is pulling the strings. Enraged by this new form of imprisonment, Moon curses the mysterious system. He refuses to be dragged back to any scary basement and controlled again. Just as his anger peaks, the terrifying mass of dark energy comically morphs into a cute cat face and lets out a gentle meow tilde, breaking the tension completely. The scene shifts away from the ethereal plane and into the grim reality of the Campbell house sewer, where the water ripples with unseen movement. An assassin wearing a maid's uniform under a dark cloak flees through the sewer. She's frustrated that her mission failed, regretting that she didn't prioritize killing Moon Campbell when she had the chance. She freezes in her tracks as a cold, menacing voice echoes through the tunnel, asking if she was the one who wanted to harm his precious son. An immense fiery aura in the shape of a roaring lion erupts before her, radiating overwhelming power. The assassin stares in terror, realizing she has stumbled upon a truly terrifying figure. With dawning horror, she recognizes the man before her. It's the head of the family, the fearsome patriarch known as Lionheart, Lon Campbell. Lon Campbell stands calmly amidst the flames of his own power. He notes that the uninvited guest knows his name and coolly asks why she has trespassed in his home. With a chillingly calm expression, he gets straight to the point, his voice dripping with menace as he demands to know what she wanted to do with his baby son. His eyes glow with paternal fury, the fiery lion aura roaring behind him. He leans in, promising to be all ears, making it clear that her answer will determine her fate. The story then cuts back to Moon Campbell, who is now safe in his luxurious bedroom. A maid sits vigil by his bedside as he lies unconscious. Moon's eyes flutter open. He is weak and disoriented from his ordeal, looking groggily at the unfamiliar face of the maid watching over him. The maid introduces herself as Anne. Seeing his confusion, she expresses her concern and offers to immediately call a doctor for him. Moon dismisses her offer, insisting he just needs to use the bathroom. But as he tries to get up, his body is too weak, and Anne rushes to his side to keep him from falling. He lets out a pained groan as his body gives out, a wave of weakness overwhelming him completely. But before he can hit the floor, Anne catches him, shouting for him to be careful as she supports his collapsing body. Resting in her arms, Moon apologizes for his weakness. Anne tells him not to worry, as it's her job to care for him. She then suggests that to make things easier, she can help him use a urinal right there in the room. Moon is rendered speechless, his mind short-circuiting at the suggestion. a urinal, the sheer embarrassment of the situation is overwhelming. Holding up an ornate golden urinal, Anne explains the final detail. His fiancée was so worried that she has tasked Anne with taking care of all his needs, from medicine and bathing to using the toilet. The chapter ends with Moon learning of his engagement and his utter helplessness in the most comical way possible. Moon Campbell wakes up to find his loyal maid, Anne, by his side. She explains that while he was unconscious, she could tell he was unwell just by his frowning and curled-up body, assuring him that no inappropriate incidents like peeing the bed occurred. Anne's professional demeanor takes an awkward turn as she bluntly asks, "Do you need me to take off your pants?" Moon is utterly shocked by the sudden and overly intimate offer. Trying to regain some dignity, Moon insists he can't let her help him with such personal matters now that he's awake. He gently pats his own head and requests her help just to get to the toilet, thinking he can manage by walking slowly. With a calm and accepting expression, Anne agrees to his request, simply saying, "Well, if that is what the young master wants." But before Moon can even process it, Anne moves with surprising speed, leaving him utterly bewildered. Instead of helping him walk, Anne simply lifts him into a princess carry. She states matter-of-factly, "It's faster this way." Moon, caught completely off guard, can only stammer in protest. As they proceed down the hall, they're spotted by two other maids, a blonde maid and one with glasses, who are shocked by the sight of Anne carrying their young master. From the other maid's perspective, the scene is even more scandalous. The blonde maid can't believe her eyes, recognizing both Anne and Moon. While one of the maids shouts to inform the madam that the young master is awake, Moon is mortified by the public display, thinking how embarrassing it is. Anne, however, remains completely unfazed. Having arrived at the bathroom, Moon hesitantly addresses Anne, but she's already asking what's wrong, ever attentive. Moon asks her to leave, but Anne refuses, stating that the madam ordered her to provide 24-hour protection. When he insists, she once again offers to help him with his pants. Having had enough, Moon uses what little strength he has to physically push his overly dedicated maid out of the bathroom. The door slams shut with a loud bang, leaving a chippified Anne standing alone in the hallway, finally getting the message. A little while later, back in Moon's room, Anne helps the exhausted young master settle back into bed. Moon asks how long he was asleep. Anne informs him that he slept for 3 full days. The length of time shocks Moon, who immediately worries about the state of his injury. Anne explains that his injury was healed on the very first evening. It was Her Highness, Princess Selija, who called the chief physician of the Royal Magician Corps to treat him. His prolonged sleep was simply due to weakness from excessive blood loss. Looking at the now-healed scar on his chest, Moon is stunned. The realization that it was Selija, the very person who attacked him, who ended up saving him, is a lot to take in. With a hint of apprehension, Moon asks Anne if the princess said anything else when she intervened. Hearing Anne simply say, "No," Moon breathes a sigh of relief, thinking that maybe Selija doesn't intend to pursue the matter of their confrontation any further. However, his relief is short-lived. Anne clarifies that while Selija didn't say anything to them, she did speak to His Majesty, the King. Moon's face contorts in horror at the implication. Anne recounts the events. After investigations, it was confirmed that Princess Selija was the target of the assassination. The instigator was a black market organization from Belrand. The king, furious, sent troops to clear them out, arresting and executing many. She continues, explaining that the Duke captured 2 assassins alive who confessed everything. Since the incident occurred at their mansion, the Duke was prepared to face the king's wrath. Unexpectedly, the Duke returned unpunished, and the Campbell family was excluded from the subsequent investigation into the aristocracy. Anne concludes that Princess Selija must have said something to the king to resolve the issue on their behalf. Moon collapses back onto the bed, letting out a huge sigh of relief. He complains that Anne's dramatic pauses are bad for his heart, begging her to be more direct next time. Seeing his over-the-top reaction, Anne leans in with a sly look. She teases him, asking if his nervousness means something unspeakable happened between him and the princess. Moon is immediately flustered, stammering as he tries to deny it. Moon's mind flashes back to the life-or-death struggle with Selija, his imagination running wild with Anne's teasing words, picturing the princess whispering, "So hot, want." He panics, frantically trying to shut down Anne's line of questioning. "How is that possible?" he exclaims. "I'm just bad, not stupid. Anyone who dares to do anything to the princess will be beheaded." His outburst is met with silence. Moon, clutching his blanket, can only stammer "What?" as Anne simply stares back at him. A sly smile plays on Anne's lips as she enjoys his discomfort, simply saying, "Really?" as if she knows something he doesn't. Changing the subject, Anne presents a spoonful of dark, viscous medicine. "Come on, young master, drink the medicine tilde it's not hot anymore tilde." Resigned to his fate, Moon reluctantly accepts the spoonful of medicine from his persistent maid. The moment the liquid touches his tongue, his eyes widen in utter horror. The taste is far worse than he could have ever imagined. He violently spits out the medicine, coughing and sputtering. "What kind of medicine is this? It's too bitter, my tongue is numb," he cries out in agony. Anne calmly explains that it's a blood-replenishing tonic, not medicine, and that she already added sugar. She tries to coax him like a child, but Moon insists that the bitterness causes an automatic physical rejection. Outside his room, the other maids hear the commotion. They whisper amongst themselves, "The young master is angry again, so scary." The maids recall that their master always hated bitter food and would get furious, even whipping people. One remarks that despite his recent gentle streak, it looks like Anne might get beaten. Another suggests they should go and report to the madam. Overhearing their plan to tattle, Moon peeks out from the doorway, startling them as he shouts, "Don't go." In a desperate attempt to stop them, he yells, "Don't tell Mom, it's just medicine," while simultaneously pointing an accusatory finger at Anne. To prove his point and end the situation, Moon grabs the bowl and chugs the entire concoction in one go, much to everyone's surprise. Thoroughly intimidated by their master's dramatic display, the gossiping maids quickly scatter and flee down the hallway. Moon stands triumphantly with the empty bowl, having successfully averted the crisis of his mother finding out. But his victory is short-lived as the full force of the bitter tonic hits his stomach, causing him to gag. Anne rushes to his side, crying out his name. He ends up hunched over a chamber pot, vomiting. Anne pats his back, apologizing and explaining that she forgot to tell him that drinking it all at once causes physiological nausea. As Moon recovers from his nausea, Anne cheerfully informs him that this was just the 4th course of medicine, and according to the royal physician, he'll be cured after 2 more doses. Moon is horrified. He collapses back into bed, his soul seemingly leaving his body. He moans that the medicine is even more bitter than my life, and dramatically declares he doesn't want to work anymore and would rather destroy the world. Having successfully administered the medicine, Anne offers a truce. She notes there's time before dinner and offers him black tea and pancake, adding she can call a guard at any time if he's not satisfied. Appeased by the offer of cake, Moon accepts it graciously. He thanks Anne for her hard work over the past few days and promises to talk to his mother about getting her a raise. Anne gives a polite curtsy, saying she'll go report to his parents so they won't be worried. As she leaves, Moon happily digs into the cake, admitting to himself that it's delicious. No wonder it's so expensive. Anne mentions one more thing. A letter from the royal palace arrived for him and is waiting in his cabinet. While eating his cake, Moon wonders if it's from Selija and decides he'll look at it later. Taking another bite, Moon continues to ponder the letter, but then a different, more pressing question comes to mind. Just as Anne is about to leave, Moon stops her, saying that a sudden thought occurred to him. He asks how she managed to feed him the bitter medicine while he was unconscious, reasoning that even by pure instinct, there's no way he would have eaten something so foul. Anne freezes in her tracks. Moon quickly clarifies that he's just curious, wondering how she fed him since there isn't any equipment like a gastric tube in this world. With a slight, knowing smile, Anne turns back and says, "It's just as you thought, young master. I know you can't bear hardship, so I put a lot of sugar in your mouth." As she walks out the door, Moon repeats her words to himself. It turns out that sugar was added. And the horrifying realization begins to dawn on him as he questions, "In the mouth." His mind races in panic as he covers his mouth. Whose mouth? Mine, hers. A flashback reveals the actual situation. While he was unconscious, Anne fed him the medicine mouth to mouth. The flashback ends, and all Anne hears from outside the closed door is Moon's blood-curdling scream of delayed horror. A moment later, however, Moon is blushing and giggling to himself. He reflects on his privileged life and then realizes with giddy delight that the mouth-to-mouth feeding was his very first kiss. But his joy is cut short as a sudden memory strikes him. "Wrong," he exclaims. He remembers the moment he pushed Princess Selija out of harm's way, their lips accidentally brushing against each other. His actual first kiss had already been taken. The thought of his encounter with the princess reminds him of the letter Anne mentioned. He throws off his blanket and scrambles out of bed to find it. He retrieves the letter from his nightstand. It's marked with the seal of the royal palace. Inside, the letter from Selija is brief and cryptic, stating only, "Just treat you as half a man, Moon Campbell." Moon lets out a massive sigh of relief, interpreting the message as a sign that she isn't planning to pursue his past crimes for the time being. He feels a profound sense of relief, believing that by saving her, he has successfully avoided the worst possible ending. The scene shifts to later that evening at mealtime, where a woman's voice lovingly calls out for Muin, her little Muin. His mother smothers him in a hug, dramatically crying that she was scared to death when his father carried him home covered in blood. Moon awkwardly tries to comfort her. His mother continues to weep, telling him to look at himself in the mirror, unable to bear the sight of his injury. She laments that her perfect little son has such an ugly wound. Moon tries to downplay it, insisting it's just a minor injury and that he's perfectly fine apart from feeling a little weak. His father, Lon Campbell, comforts his wife, agreeing with Moon that it's just a minor injury and that scars are medals of honor for men. He then sincerely thanks his son, admitting that without his heroic act of saving the princess, not even his own great military exploits could have saved him from the king's wrath. Now seated for dinner, Moon takes the opportunity to ask his father for more details about what happened with the assassins. Lon Campbell begins his debrief, explaining the details of the attack. He reveals there were 3 assassins in total targeting the princess. Aside from the one Her Highness killed on the spot and the one who broke the barrier, there was a third accomplice responsible for contact, whom Lon's men captured from the sewers. He confirms that he sent the 2 survivors to the palace for interrogation overnight. Lon continues, explaining that while the assassins were stubborn, they eventually broke under interrogation. He reveals a key discovery. they weren't professional death warriors, but rather bounty hunters from the Belrin black market. More disturbingly, they belong to a fanatical cult that worships an evil god they call the King of Withering. Moon inwardly processes the new information. He doesn't recall any mention of the King of Withering or these bounty hunters in the original novel, leading him to dismiss them as an insignificant, small group. However, Lon Campbell continues, revealing that according to the Royal Guards, the gang is a vicious criminal organization that has existed for years. They are a group of desperate criminals who will take any job for the right price, even killing their own parents. His mother tries to reassure him, stating that his father has already led his men to eliminate the organization over the past 2 days. Moon is stunned by this news, questioning the complete eradication. She proudly boasts about Lon's status as the first Grand Duke, while Lon himself humbly downplays his actions, stating he was merely ordered to clean up the rat nests around the royal capital. Playing the part of the dutiful son, Moon compliments his father's strength before asking the most important question: had he discovered who hired the assassins? Unfortunately, Lon says they found no answers. All the arrested hunters were cursed to immediately burn to death the moment they tried to reveal the mastermind, a fact that further angered His Majesty. Lon concludes that while the Belrin black market is destroyed, there's no substantial evidence about the mastermind, proving they have deep control over the capital's underworld. As a result, the king has ordered a thorough investigation of all nobles who might dare to attack Princess Celicia. Moon is thunderstruck. He suddenly realizes that his father destroying Belran's underground black market was a major event from the original novel. He recalls the original plot. The incident happened because someone put a bounty on the life of the king's favorite concubine on the black market. An assassin not only took the bounty but succeeded. The king's fury led to a brutal 3-month-long purge that killed so many people the sewers of the royal city were dyed red. The event came to be known as the Blood River Incident. Moon puts the pieces together. That incident was supposed to happen in 2 years. But now that he saved the princess and his father has already destroyed the black market, the original Blood River Incident will never occur. He thinks about the consequences. The Blood River Incident was a massive event for the original book's protagonist, Ariel, who was swept up in the conflict during a black market auction. After falling into crisis several times, Ariel used her protagonist's luck to avert danger, and her strength grew rapidly. The incident was a crucial transitional chapter for her, but now it's gone. He realizes with comical horror that his one small action has caused a massive chain reaction. The original storyline is now completely messed up and can't be reversed. Later that night, sitting at his desk, Moon reflects on his new reality. Though his parents told him to rest, he knows it's not the time for that. The plot has completely diverged from the original book's trajectory, meaning all the events he is about to face are now unknown to him. Moon Campbell reflects on his new reality. He realizes the plot of the original book is no longer a reliable guide, and his survival now depends entirely on himself. To navigate this, he decides to set a few small goals first. He diligently writes down his new life goals. First, to survive at all costs. Second, to avoid the tragic ending of being imprisoned and abused. Third, to become stronger. And a fourth, crucial reminder to himself: the Black Book is not to be trusted. He pauses his writing, holding the feather quill in his mouth as he thoughtfully considers his plans. However, fear still lingers. He recalls a murderer's voice from a prophetic dream. Even though he doesn't recognize it, he can't ignore the horrifying possibility of being captured, imprisoned, and brutally sliced into 1,000 pieces. He must be cautious of the Black Book's prophecy, as the true cause of his foretold demise remains a mystery. If it's not the heroines, Ariel and Celicia, who hold such strong hatred for him, then who could it be? He clutches his head in frustration. Being at a disadvantage due to the lack of information is incredibly annoying. He can't understand anything from just one small segment of a prophetic dream. He sighs and falls back onto his bed, deciding to forget about it for now. There's no point in overthinking. He should focus on what he can do at this very moment. His eyes fall back on his goals. Getting stronger is the absolute top priority. However, as a duke's son, the conventional methods of training are not enough to close the massive power gap between him and the protagonist's group. He scoffs, remembering how the body's original owner wasted so much time. After a whole year at St. Maria Academy, the only magic he can recall is a single basic light spell. It's utterly ridiculous. Fortunately, his physical condition isn't bad. He's at the level of a late-stage First Order, but according to the Academy's combat power system, he knows he probably can't advance any higher at his current stage. He covers his face, feeling hopeless. Even if he somehow managed to reach the Fifth Order, it would be useless against Ariel and Celicia. They are God's chosen, practically humanoid cheat codes that break the world's rules. Take Celicia, for instance. She was granted authority by the goddess of ice and snow not long after she was born, giving her a native instinct to manipulate ice that is far beyond the divine power clerics obtain through prayer and transactions. And then there's Ariel, the super-strong Joshin from the original book. Moon recalls that in the later stages of the story, she had divine blessings in the double digits, able to call upon countless gods for help without hesitation. If she can't win, she'll just call for the gods. It's amazing. Thinking of Ariel, he knows that even now, her strength is comparable to his, but she also possesses divine magic and various unique items. Beating an ordinary opponent with a two-tier difference is no problem for her. Against a noob like him, he simply can't win. He closes the book, his mind made up. After analyzing the current situation, the answer is obvious. His determined eyes are reflected in the book's spine. His ultimate goal for this stage is clear. As quickly as possible, he must reach a level where he can protect himself, even when facing Ariel. A confident smile plays on his lips. He acknowledges that Ariel's cheats are strong and numerous, but he isn't without his own. Thanks to the assassin incident, he's awakened a new ability. And that ability is the Black Book. He summons a small, sharp, golden object that materializes in his hand. With a smirk, he says, "On call," as a shadowy aura emanates from his hand, summoning the book itself. A small, comical thought bubble shows a chibi version of him hatching from an egg, representing his glee and the birth of his new power. Suddenly, an immense force yanks at him, causing him to scream in agony, as it feels like his very soul is being ripped from his body. He clutches the book, furious and in pain. "That hurts," he shouts. "If you want to kill me, just say so. How dare you attack my little brother? I still need to use it in the future." As the dark energy swirls, a tear forms in his eye from the sheer pain, but his expression remains steadfast and determined. He looks down, confused, as the Black Book begins to rustle. On its own, the pages start flipping rapidly, as if searching for something. The book then lands on a page filled with text. It's a detailed log, recounting recent events in his life, visiting the black market, training with the head maid, delivering his coming-of-age speech, and even dancing with Princess Celicia. As Muen reads the book, he's appalled. It's recording the events of the past few days in excruciating detail, including when Celicia pinned him to the ground. He complains that it feels like he's the main character in a dirty book. But then his eyes widen as he stops on a particular detail in the text. "Hey, wait a minute," he thinks, having noticed something unusual. He focuses on a passage describing how he carelessly opened a door and was attacked by an assassin. He wonders, why is this text red? Is there some? Before he can finish the thought, a violent, blood-red energy erupts from the book, startling him completely. "Holy shit, again," he shouts. He's engulfed by the crimson tendrils, gritting his teeth as he struggles against the force. "Can't you give me a heads up next time?" he yells at the book in frustration. In a flash, he's transported to a different place. He instinctively takes a defensive stance, looking around in confusion. "Where is this?" he asks. He finds himself in a vast, dimly lit hall. It's not the dungeon from before. He quickly deduces, could it be? This is a space within the Black Book. Suddenly, his attention is drawn to a figure emerging from the shadows. His eyes widen as he sees the silhouette of an assassin with glowing red eyes. "Who's there?" he calls out, his voice filled with alarm and surprise. Muen instantly recognizes the assassin's technique, shadow step. Before he can fully react, the dark-skinned female assassin closes the distance in a blur, lunging at him with a blade glowing with dark energy. His eyes widen in horror as the blade slashes across his throat, and blood erupts from the fatal wound. He's been killed in an instant. The assassin glances back over her shoulder, her expression cold and unimpressed. "Well," she says, as if she was expecting more of a fight. Muen jolts back to reality in his room, gasping for air with a look of pure shock on his face. "Holy shit," he yells. He clutches his neck, the phantom pain still fresh. "What's going on? I got insta-killed," he says, bewildered. He wonders how the assassin from the previous incident appeared inside the Black Book. He stands and addresses the book directly. "Black Book." The book's pages rustle as if in response, a dark aura still swirling around it. A screen materializes, displaying his proficiency levels. He sees his name, Muen Campbell, and his first order rank in both warrior and mage classes. Most importantly, it shows that after that brief encounter, his dagger combat and shadow step skills have gained a small amount of proficiency. A mischievous chibi version of Muen laughs. "So that's how it is. Is this your true ability, Black Book?" He then sweetly apologizes for yelling at it earlier, calling it "my dear." His expression becomes sharp and excited. "Let me try a few more times." A confident grin spreads across his face as he realizes the incredible potential of his new power, if my guess is correct. My cheat is going to be awesome. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.